Hello everybody, my name is Keith Small. I'm 76 years old and suffer from Parkinson's. I was diagnosed about 5 years ago, but I believe I was suffering symptoms for about 10 years previously to this. I'm not an expert in Parkinsonism in any way. My only qualification for speaking to you today is my role as chair of the Newark District Parkinson's Group. So this commentary looks at some of the issues we meet in our group and some of the methods we use to try to deal with them. I hope you will find it interesting. The theme for my comments on Parkinson's disease, Parkinsonism or PD is that it's not just a tremor. Soon after their diagnosis, sufferers, their families and carer supporters will probably have found out that Parkinson's disease is a long-term degenerative disorder of the central nervous system. They will learn that it mainly affects the body's motor systems. Also, as it progresses, non-motor symptoms become more apparent. The symptoms usually emerge slowly, which makes early diagnosis difficult. If they ask how is it caused, the answer is we don't know. If they ask how is it cured, the answer is at present there is no specific cure for Parkinson's disease, but it responds well to treatment. Surprisingly, this does not usually cause any great concern for our members. They're optimistic that it responds well to treatment. But given a little time to think about it, as it progresses, non-motor symptoms become more apparent. What does this mean? What is a non-motor symptom? What will happen to me? Could I have been experiencing non-motor symptoms even before the diagnosis of PD was made? Many of our members are convinced they were suffering non-motor symptoms before their diagnosis. These symptoms seem sometimes to have been dismissed by the medical profession because they appeared to be minor symptoms that did not relate to any specific condition. Sometimes apparently unconnected symptoms can slow diagnosis down. One of our members was a keen cyclist, and he was surprised when he kept falling off his bicycle, sometimes at great risk to himself. Riding a bike is something you never forget. It was some months later when he was diagnosed with PD and was told that it might affect his sense of balance at some stage. He has given up cycling and sold his bikes. Some of the main concerns can be present before any diagnosis can be made. It's becoming increasingly usual for a consultation with a GP to look at one condition only per visit. But Parkinsonism displays a range of apparently disconnected symptoms that might make positive diagnosis elusive. Unfortunately, none of the symptoms of PD is unique to the PD condition. Even the bradykinesia symptoms can be caused by alcohol and drug excess or dependency, after effects of sudden shock, intense anxiety or nervousness, and a range of other causes. So how can I get my GP to take my minor symptoms seriously? We know that symptoms occur in two very distinct classes. The motor symptoms, which were defined by Charcot, include tremor, rigidity, slowness of movement, falls and dizziness, freezing, which can mean the muscles literally freeze immobile. It can happen when you stand up from a chair, walk through a doorway, or even when crossing a road. Muscle cramps and dystonia, when the muscles stiffen and shorten, resulting in pain and discomfort. This sometimes happens when carrying out a particular task. We often need to explain this to our members. The sufferer may well have been told about the common symptoms, but it does not always register. When a diagnosis is being made, there's a lot to take in. Sometimes we can assume understanding unfairly. We do not suggest that patients can self-diagnose Parkinson's, but diagnosis tends to rely on building a list of symptoms. Some of these are clinchers, and some are simply indicative. It may help to keep a record of symptoms and report them. Keeping a structured record of symptoms as they present, whether physical or neurological, and noting frequencies and severities might help to simplify a diagnosis. We usually suggest that our members, and particularly their carer supporters, keep a record to help track PD's potential progress and development between the GP's suspicions and meeting with a PD specialist. Carers and families of people who are showing a range of apparently unrelated symptoms, but who suspect PD, sometimes ask us how Parkinson's appears in a person. My usual route will be to offer a questionnaire, such as this one, which lists the bradiokinesia symptoms down one side and allows an estimate of how often they occur to be marked off. The first three columns represent no score, as simply asking the question may provoke people to remembering the odd incident when one of the symptoms has occurred. But if the symptoms are occurring monthly, then this can be indicative, and a score of 2 points per item is added. If the symptom is said to occur every week, this is much more significant, and a score of 4 points per item is added. When the symptoms are occurring almost daily, or to some extent continuously, then this is important, and a score of 8 points per item is added to the sheet. When the scores are totaled up, any score of 8+ we consider to be worth follow-up with a GP or with the clinical specialist. We sometimes encourage members to keep this list over a period of time so that they can see how symptoms might be developing. It's also important for people to know that they do not necessarily experience some of the symptoms ever. There is no definite cause for Parkinson's, so there can be no specific cure. We know that people can experience symptoms of Parkinson's before anyone can achieve a diagnosis, but when the diagnosis is made, the treatment should quickly bring the symptoms under some sort of control. We recommend listing symptoms when they occur and how they affect you, and then carefully noting when and how these symptoms disappear with treatment and those that have not disappeared as yet. This will usually build confidence in the treatment regime. Importantly, we also advise PD sufferers to note any new symptoms as they appear and their effect, and to bring this to the attention of their GP or PD specialist. The second distinct class is non-motor symptoms, which are a little more difficult to define and often much more scary for the individual PD sufferer. They include bladder and bowel problems, low blood pressure, restless leg syndrome, fatigue, sweating and skin dampness, sleep disorders, eating, swallowing and saliva control, speech and communication control, eye problems, foot care issues. Sorry, the list isn't complete yet. Mouth and dental issues, memory and thinking problems, anxiety, hallucinations and delusions, depression, apathy, dementia, and general pain and discomfort. So it's not just a tremor. How can a sufferer know this? We find that new members are sometimes anxious and possibly even stressed because they do not understand that a range of symptoms are normal for the condition. Obviously, we do not want to prompt these symptoms by suggestion, but the balance is in favour of asking people if they recognise the potential experiences that these symptoms can cause. Sometimes real stresses become apparent in this discussion when people have not connected debilitating symptoms with their PD condition. It can sometimes help to realize that unusual and somewhat uncontrollable emotional responses can be part of the PD condition. PD can easily damage a person's self-confidence. We sometimes use a fears and anxieties questionnaire to just help people pinpoint their experiences. Some of these symptoms can cause extreme anxiety when confronted by social groups, even among people who are well known to the sufferer. This means that some of our members have real difficulty just attending our support meetings. Being in a crowd can actually become frightening for PD sufferers, even when the crowd is an audience at an entertainment or tourists at a popular resort, somewhere to be enjoyed where no real threat exists. Friends and relatives find it difficult to understand this fear, which can be totally debilitating for the PD sufferer. PD sufferers can experience this before diagnosis. I myself was a keen American football fan. I was one of the noisiest of anyone when attending a Monarchs game at Wembley. I went to see the Patriots play at Wembley with my children. I'm a big Tom Brady fan. I suddenly found that to be in a crowd actually frightened me, without any real cause for this. I then found I could not tolerate being in any crowd. It was some time later when I was diagnosed with PD and was told that fear and anxiety in crowds might be a side effect of the condition, that my fears then made sense. Shopping can be stressful when busy shop assistants and other shoppers lose patience with a Parkinson's sufferer who is having a slow thinking day. Even close family members sometimes forget that having to concentrate can lead the sufferer to totally emotionless and disengaged body language, conveying boredom or disinterest or even annoyance, when this is not at all what the sufferer is experiencing. PD sufferers can experience this before diagnosis. Several of our members report real difficulty and feelings of anger when confronted by impatient members of the public. We sometimes recommend wearing a PD badge, which is usually well received by people. Difficulties with memory recall can sometimes be a symptom. This often happens quite early in the condition. When it is observed by family and friends, it can cause great anxiety for everyone concerned. The main fear for the PD sufferer is that this will deteriorate, leading to Alzheimer's. The first need is for everyone to understand the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. PD can sometimes lead to dementia, which is simply a difficulty in recalling memories. Therefore, the PD sufferer should be engaged with patients when memory slips. Prompts and hints can help, but help the sufferer to sort it out for themselves. The memory is in there somewhere. It might sometimes help for a family to understand the possible non-motor symptoms of Parkinsonism. We carefully point out that these should not be looked for, but simply recognized if and when they are observed as possible side effects of the condition. On the other hand, these might sometimes need to be reported to your GP or Parkinson's specialist, as they may not have anything to do with the PD diagnosis and have some other cause. The questionnaire is quite a long list of items. It is a list you are welcome to use if it is of any value. So in summary, slowness of thought makes other people impatient with the PD sufferer, and often angry outbursts can result. Loss of balance is common, resulting in falls that can sometimes cause debilitating and even life-threatening injury, but observers often give credit to an overindulgence in alcohol or just carelessness and offer little or no sympathy. Loss of a sense of taste and smell can mean that social and family meals can become stressful. A family member makes a special dish for dinner, and when asked, "How did you enjoy it?" you have to say, "I'm sorry, I couldn't even taste it." Sleep disorders and insomnia can put strains on emotional relationships between partners. Loss of facial expression can mean even those close to you misinterpret your moods and feelings. Incontinence is embarrassing and can even become degrading. Constipation is stressful and can sometimes be painful. Illusions and hallucinations can be very frightening. Emotional difficulties leading to depression and apathy can become serious enough to induce suicidal thoughts and even suicidal behaviors. So it's not just a tremor. A real difficulty for PD sufferers, especially around younger children or with recently met acquaintances or even with close friends that haven't been seen for some time, is that the Parkinson's sufferer can think they look like this. But in fact, this is the image they are conveying. It's okay for PD sufferers to be alone in their thoughts and interests. But apathy and depression can develop without companionship and social interaction. This can happen to carers as well as sufferers. Coronavirus has put real pressure on the isolation threat for PD families. The coronavirus restrictions have caused real harm to families of PD sufferers. Support groups have gone missing. Even our own group has been unable to meet since February and will not risk meeting again until March of 2021 at the soonest. Many PD sufferers are in the vulnerable group, but they do not feel vulnerable on account of coronavirus. PD sometimes causes social reticence. PD sufferers may not seek the help they actually need. And the various rules of isolation are becoming confusing for people who should be shielding. In conclusion, a diagnosis of PD is difficult in itself. Once the sufferer has come to terms with the diagnosis, the surprise is how invasive the condition can become. The side effects are often a greater cause for concern than the expected bradykinesia symptoms. Non-motor symptoms usually cause most concern. Non-motor symptoms cannot be predicted, so they often cause real anxiety when they do present themselves. PD is as much a psychological challenge as it is a physical one. The psychology is sometimes missed by clinicians. Thus our theme has been, it's not just a tremor. NDPG is a fully affiliated member of Parkinson's UK. Parkinson's UK leads the UK education, focus and awareness for researchers, therapists, clinicians, sufferers, carers and fundraisers. So experts are available as and when needed. As for NDPG itself, our mission contains our motto. Anyone and everyone is welcome to join us. You don't have to have Parkinson's. You don't even have to care for someone with Parkinson's. You just have to care. Thank you all. I hope this has been useful.